Oh, hi there. It's 1.2, Overview of the Nervous System. And today we're going to differentiate among the subsystems of the human nervous system and their functions. We're going to learn all the different parts of the nervous system, and it's going to be a good time. Here we go. The nervous system is our body's communication network. It's kind of our most important hardware. If you view the human brain as a computer, which many people do, this is the computer. This is the central nervous system. It's the brain and the spinal cord. And then we got the peripheral nervous system, which is just everything on the outside, all your nerves on the outside. And the peripheral nervous system is divided into two parts, which we'll learn about, the autonomic and the somatic. And the autonomic nervous system is divided into two parts, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. So we got to learn each part of the nervous system and a few other vocab words for AP psychology. Here we go. The central nervous system makes up your brain and your spinal cord. All right. So we've already learned a bit about the brain. We're going to learn more about the brain, but we got the basics down. We got the basic brain parts down. We're going to learn it in more depth soon. And the other part of your central nervous system is your spinal cord. So these are basically the most important parts of your nervous system, and you kind of need them to live. They're the command center. Your brain makes all the decisions. Obviously, your brain's extremely important, but your spinal cord as well. Your spinal cord is connected to your brain, and all the other nerves in the nervous system are connected to the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is kind of this information highway, right? So these nerves, these neurons communicate through electricity and chemical signals, and they will communicate that to the spinal cord and up to the brain, and vice versa. Your brain makes a decision and sends that information down through the spinal cord to the rest of your nervous system. Central nervous system, brain, and spinal cord. Simple as that. It's a vital pathway for transmitting sensory information from the body to the brain and motor commands from the brain to the body. CNS. Then we got the peripheral nervous system. Now, the peripheral nervous system is just everything else. All these blue parts in this diagram here. Everything that's not the brain or the spinal cord is the peripheral nervous system, consists of all the nerves and ganglia outside the brain and spinal cord. It serves as a communication network transmitting sensory information from the body to the CNS. All right, so all your sensations, any information travels up your nerves to your spinal cord and then up to your brain. Also, when you want to move or when you want to do something, your brain sends that information down the spinal cord through the rest of your nerves and you raise your hand. Your peripheral nervous system is this blue part here, outside of the brain and spinal cord. Any part of your nervous system that's outside your brain and spinal cord. The PNS, peripheral nervous system. Peripheral means outside of. Now, your peripheral nervous system is divided into two parts, the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. First, we'll talk about the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system, obviously this looks like automatic, right? Because it is. It's an automatic nervous system. It works without your conscious awareness. It goes up and down without you deciding whether it should go up and down. All right, so what do I mean by up and down? All day, your autonomic nervous system is going up and down. What do I mean by up and down? Up means it gets stimulated, right? Your heart rate increases. It's not quite fight or flight mode, but you get excited and then you get calm and bored. You get excited again and then you get calm and bored. This is your autonomic nervous system, and it's divided into two parts. Your sympathetic nervous system is what makes you excited, right? This is what happens when you go into fight or flight mode. When something is scary, or you're afraid of something, or there's a threat, then these things will happen. Your pupils dilate, you have less saliva, you can breathe better, you can run faster, your heart is beating faster, your blood pressure is better, your digestion shuts down, there's glucose released from your liver, right? So you have just like this burst of energy and excitement, and it prepares you for fight or flight mode. Now, all day, so yeah, you get a notification on Instagram, sympathetic nervous system is going to go off. It's exciting. You take a sip of coffee, sympathetic nervous system goes off, right? It stimulates your body, right? Now, after your sympathetic nervous system is heightened for a while, then your parasympathetic nervous system kicks in and tries to calm you down, right? Your pupils constrict, you start salivating again, your airways constrict, you're losing your fight or flight mode and you're going back to homeostasis, right? Your nervous system is in this constant battle of homeostasis. You get excited and then your body tries to calm down, and then you get excited again and your body tries to calm down. That is your autonomic nervous system, and it all happens automatically without your conscious awareness. You can be consciously aware of it, but most of the time we're not. So it's involuntary. Again, it's automatic. I think I've said everything I need to say about the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Say it again. Sympathetic nervous system is not sympathetic, right? It makes you excited and anxious and afraid. And not necessarily anxious and afraid. It just might make you excited, but it excites and stimulates your body and prepares your body for fight or flight mode. It's a natural response for any animal throughout the day, and we are no different than all the other animals when it comes to the nervous system. It prepares us for fight or flight mode, stress, danger, but also an Instagram notification or a sip of coffee could activate your sympathetic nervous system, right? And it's an evolutionary advantage, of course, because having this allows us to survive uh, dangerous situations easier. All right. And then our parasympathetic nervous system, again, calms us down. It relaxes us. And of course, we need this because otherwise we'd never be able to sleep or relax. It slows our heart rate, constricts our airways, enhances digestion, and allows the body to conserve energy and recover from stressors. So we need both of these things. We need them both. Okay? Get excited, we get calmed down, we get excited, we get calmed down. It's just homeostasis again and again. The whole battle lasts all day long, every day of our lives. Sympathetic, parasympathetic, back and forth, up and down, automatically. Now, I will say, it's very hard to control. You can't control your sympathetic nervous system, right? You get excited or you get scared. It's not really a conscious decision or choice to get excited or scared. It just happens automatically. Sympathetic nervous system cannot be hacked by your free will. However, the parasympathetic nervous system, if you notice that your sympathetic nervous system is gone haywire and you're way too excited and way too stressed and anxious than you should be, there is a simple hack, and it is the only hack that you can do to activate, to consciously focus on your body and activate your parasympathetic nervous system. It's automatic and it will work without your conscious awareness, but with your conscious awareness, you can make it work faster and more efficiently. The hack is, are you ready? Breathing, deep breathing. Couple of those, and you will have activated your parasympathetic nervous system, and you can calm yourself down. You can calm your body down much faster than just waiting for it to automatically do it. So that is a pretty useful life hack that everyone should probably know how to do. Deep breathing. Your somatic nervous system is the other half of your peripheral nervous system. Remember, there are two parts, the autonomic and the somatic. I talked about the autonomic, and now we're talking about the somatic. The somatic is the division of the peripheral nervous system responsible for controlling voluntary movements and relaying sensory information from the body to the central nervous system. So sensory information, right? I touch something that is hot, and I'm touching something that is hot, and that information is traveling down my nerves to my spinal cord and up to my brain, right? So anything to do with sensations is the somatic nervous system, right? Also, voluntary movements. I want to ride a bike. I'm my brain is deciding pedal the bicycle, right? Pedal the bicycle, and that's going down through my spinal cord and out to my nerves so I can correctly hold the bicycle and my legs are moving and pedaling. Somatic nerves connect to your skeletal muscles. The somatic. Soma means body in ancient Greek or Latin. I think it's Greek. Now, what are neurons? So we've been talking about the nervous system. The nervous system is entirely made up of neurons, 86 billion neurons in our body. Most of them are in our brain, but they're also in our spinal cord and all over the nervous system. And neurons are the cells that communicate information throughout the body, right? They keep the body going, they keep the brain going, they make the brain function, they make everything function. Without neurons, we're just nothing. Neurons are everything. And there's 86 billion of them in our bodies. They're specialized cells. The stereotypical neuron looks just like this. Each one of these, the crazy thing is, a neuron, it looks like they're all connected, right? When you look at a diagram of a nervous system, it looks like some internal wiring. They're not actually connected. They're a fraction of a millimeter apart from each other. They don't touch. Right? They're isolated. They're not actually touching. They're just very close. And one neuron can have a connection with up to 10,000 other neurons, which allows for trillions of connections throughout the brain and body. So this is what a stereotypical neuron looks like. We're going to make one of these sometime soon. You're going to need to know each and every part of a neuron. So let's look at it. Here's a stereotypical neuron. All right. It's a cell. It's just one cell. Here's the cell body. also called a soma, but we'll just ignore that. We'll call it a cell body or soma. These are dendrites. Dendrite means branch, like a tree branch in either Greek or Latin, who knows? I think Greek. And what dendrites do is they receive messages from other neurons. Okay, so they absorb information. Now, how are they absorbing information? Through something called neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters is something we haven't learned yet, but neurotransmitters are basically just little bags of chemicals floating around your brain and floating around your body in between neurons. And these neurons shoot, they eject, they shoot, and they absorb. Here's where they absorb, and here's where they shoot neurotransmitters. So you get an Instagram notification and you get dopamine released into your brain, right? Everybody kind of knows about dopamine at this point, even though we haven't learned about it in AP Psych yet. And the first neuron will fire dopamine into the brain, and now that's connected with 10,000 other neurons, and now they're all firing dopamine. That's a simplification of how this works. Dendrites receive information in the form of bags of chemicals, which we call neurotransmitters, right? And then once they receive enough chemical signals, let's say enough dopamine, there's an electrical charge in the cell body. It charges up, right? Give me more chemicals, give me more chemicals. And it's got enough dopamine, and now it's charged up and it shoots an electrical current through the axon, which is basically just like a wire, right? Because it is a wire because it's covered just like a wire is covered to help protect it and help speed up the electric charge. It's covered by a myelin sheath. So here's the axon, just this middle part that passes messages from one end of the neuron to the other. And we got the myelin sheath, which is basically a layer of fat that speeds up the transmission and protects the axon, the wiring, just like a wire, just like your phone charger, right? And your neural impulse. We'll learn about what a neural impulse is later. We'll learn how the electricity actually, how does this happen? It sounds crazy, but we're going to learn how it happens. So we got the cell body, we got the dendrites, we got the axon, we got the myelin sheath, and then out here we got the terminal branches, sometimes called the terminal buttons. And these are where more neurotransmitters are stored. And this guy is going to shoot more dopamine or any other neurotransmitter into the synapse, which is the gap between neurons, to be absorbed by the dendrites of other neurons. And then they will get an electrical charge, and then they will shoot out more dopamine. Yep, it's crazy. 86 billion of these things. And this is how our body communicates, and this is how our brain functions. It's all neurons, and they're not even touching each other. They're a fraction of a millimeter apart. And we are electric. We are chemical and we are electric. They are firing electricity, and they're communicating with each other through shooting bags of chemicals at each other. Yep. Glial cells is another important term. These are support cells. They're also in our brain and body. There's more of them than there are neurons. You can see how little they are compared to a neuron. This is a neuron, and these are glial cells. And what they're doing is helping the neuron. They feed it, they bring it water and oxygen and glucose, but they also repair it. So when a neuron is damaged, they repair it. They're like little medics. They're like white blood cells. When a neuron is dead, they recycle it. When a neurotransmitter is, when a bag of chemicals is floating around and it's kind of dying or rotting, they will come clean up and they will recycle. So, yep, sounds crazy because it is. These little things, glial cells, fix, repair, feed, nurture the neurons, and they are good recyclers. Motor neurons are nerve cells that transmit signals from the central nervous system to muscles, glands, and organs, initiating and controlling voluntary and involuntary movements. So a motor neuron goes from the brain to the thing that you want to move. All right, motor means move. When you decide to raise your hand in class to ask a question, which I don't think anybody does, motor neurons transmit signals from your brain to the muscles in your arm, causing it to move upward and raise your hand. So you're sending instructions from your brain somewhere else, shoot the basketball, smile, run, raise your hand. Anything that's happening from your brain to your muscles, motor neuron. Now, anything going from your peripheral nervous system to your brain, sensory neurons. So as you raise your hand, sensory neurons in your fingertips and palm provide feedback to your brain, allowing you to feel the position of your hands and ensure it is raised correctly. Okay, that's not the greatest example, let's say you touch something sharp, and that information is transmitted to your CNS. That's going straight to the spine and then straight to the brain. And your brain's like, oh, it's sharp. Sensory neurons. So they go from out to in, whereas motor neurons go from in to out. Motor neurons and sensory neurons. Of course, there's one more thing called interneurons. Interneurons help the motor neurons and the sensory neurons communicate. So interneurons are mostly in your brain and spinal cord, and interneurons connect the motor neurons and sensory neurons and help them communicate, right? And because they're in your spinal cord, sometimes information doesn't have to go all the way to your brain in order for you to act in a different way or behave in a different way. That's right. You're behaving without any kind of conscious awareness or free will, and the information may never even reach your brain. So the interneurons are in your brain and spinal cord. They can make decisions, they can process information, and they connect to the sensory and motor neurons. What do I mean by they can make decisions? The reflex arc is basically the best example of this. The reflex arc is a neural pathway that controls reflex actions. So if you don't know what a reflex is, that's when you touch something hot and then you immediately pull your hand away. Even without thinking or having any conscious awareness, you don't consciously realize it's hot and you still pull your hand away. That's the reflex arc. Rapid automatic responses to sensory stimuli without conscious thought. It's our primitive reflexes. The reflex arc is the fastest nervous system pathway your body has, and it lets you react before your brain even knows what happened. It's your body's built-in autopilot safety system, right? So let's bring it all together. Here's all the neurons. You touch something hot. Your sensory neuron says, ouch, heat, and it sends that information to the spinal cord. Your interneuron is interpreting this information, and it's telling the motor neuron, hey, pull the hand away. And your motor neurons send information to each other and say, muscles move. And now you pull your hand away. All this happens before any information reaches your brain. And then it reaches your brain and you realize what just happened. Like, whoa, pulled my hand away. Good thing I have good reflexes. That is your reflex arc. And that is 1.2, the overview of the nervous system. I think I'll do this in class, the homunculus mapper. Thank you for listening, if you are indeed listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon. Good.